Oh my goodness. So it's February Love and Connection Month, and I just fell in love with Dr. Sandra. Oh my gosh, you guys are going to love her too. So many insights as to mental wellness. She shares her own personal story, which kind of blow you away, but wow.
What a powerful, powerful woman. I've known her for a little while, but boy, she blew me away on this conversation. So much good information here about functional medicine and how to take care of ourselves. And also, trigger warning, we are going to talk a little bit about suicide and suicide ideation. So take care of yourself. But do listen to this really important episode. You're going to hear more from Dr. Sandra in the future.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marcy Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DeMano. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast. So glad you're joining us again for this first Thursday in February. And today we're going to be talking with a good friend of mine. Her name is Dr. Sandra Fleming, and she's a board-certified family medicine physician with residency training in both internal and family medicine. This includes working in multiple underserved hospitals and clinics in Brooklyn, New York, Norfolk, and Portsmouth, Virginia. Dr. Sandra is also an Institute of Functional Medicine certified practitioner and has special training in heart disease, Alzheimer's disease, as well as longevity medicine. Dr. Sandra's practice, Coastal Functional Medicine, is located in Folsom, California. Her very unique approach integrates energy, functional, and holistic longevity medicine. She especially loves working with the older adult population and is currently a volunteer liaison to Snowline Health, which is a local organization here that we just love, for educational series exploring positive options for seniors to maintain their brain health through the aging process. So there is lots of great stuff to talk about there. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Sandra.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm very honored. Yeah.
Wow. So this is going to be a fun one for me. Marcy gets mad, but I always get excited about the science. So
I don't get mad about that. I'm glad
You
you're on the
can
team.
geek out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. I'll just watch.
So I have so many questions. I don't know. I just met you, so I don't know how much you know about me, but I have had a medical background and have been in medicine for more than 30 some years and made some transitions myself, was super sick, and the Western medicine thing wasn't really working for me. So I had an abrupt introduction to more of the Eastern side of medicine, probably 20 years ago now or so. So anyway, so I'm super excited to have this conversation. And of course, we're tying it to love and connection this month because it is February. So keep that in the back of your mind while we're kind of geeking out here. But I'm super curious about how you came to be and why you made the transition from regular, Western medicine to more of an Eastern functional medicine background.
Functional medicine, there's a lot of terms out there right now, holistic medicine, lifestyle medicine, functional medicine, precision medicine. There's a lot of overlap.
Yes.
And kind of where it's headed right now is towards precision medicine. And pretty much functional precision medicine are the same. And that we're trying to get to the root cause, kind of like with your autoimmune condition, right, Debbie, that you went through, you endured. You have to find those out of the box thinkers.
Yeah.
And so we all know traditional Western medicine is that Band-Aid approach to healthcare. Let's just give you another pill for your ill. and
Yes.
it's not working. It's not sustainable. It's
No.
great for the acute care model, right? Someone falls, breaks a hip,
Yes.
whatever, we can do surgery. But for chronic disease management, diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's disease, other forms of dementia, hypertension, high cholesterol, autoimmune conditions, it just, the acute care model doesn't work well. You just,
No.
it's like square peg, round hole. So hence, in the 90s, and of course, well, Chinese medicine has been around for a long time, but really it was around the 90s that we kind of just opened the door and say, hey, let's really do this. Let's listen to our patients finally. They've been
Mhm.
begging us to
Yeah.
listen, to spend
Mhm.
more than, 8.5 minutes with your patient, right?
Mhm.
So precision functional medicine, we spend a whole hour with that patient. It's a personalized approach, right? You're a sample size of one, n equals one. And so we're able to really help people by going in depth and, finding out their story, right? We have to really listen to the whole story. There's a timeline,
Yes.
right? I mean, there's kids, not only the trauma, we can't get through this world without, going through some trauma. We know that, but
Right.
we need to know, where was there maybe some mold toxicity exposure in childhood, or maybe were we drinking well water that was spiked with lead and arsenic, right? And I remember
Yeah.
that with your story.
Yes.
Yeah.
But maybe we have a mercury amalgams in our mouth, right?
Yep.
Our generation, you
Yeah.
and I, all three of us,
Yeah.
that was the only option,
Yeah.
right? Is mercury to put in our mouth. So there's were you eating a standard American diet, lots of sugar, junk food, high gluten load? So we really have to delve in really deep to find all the different possible root causes that can be insulting your cells, right?
Yeah.
Your brain, your
Yes.
heart,
Mhm.
your other organs, your
Yeah.
kidneys, your liver, your bones. Osteoporosis is a big deal with women right now,
Yeah.
men too, but
Yeah.
definitely with women. So it's really, really important to take a really, like a 30,000-foot view of the patient and really, dive into their history, their story,
Yeah.
anywhere from, again, the trauma history to what metals, toxins are in your body right now that we can get rid
Mhm.
of, and then what deficiencies. Maybe you're walking around with B12 deficiency or folate deficiency, or I had a patient right now. Her zinc level is like god awful low for years, and
Mhm.
even her fingernails are missing. And so
Oh.
that was a
Yeah.
miss from traditional medicine, Western
Yeah.
medicine,
Yeah.
and that's easy. All you got to do is check for a zinc level.
Right.
And there's
Right.
lots of vitamin D deficient people. They're depressed
Yeah.
in the winter and they wonder why,
Yeah.
right? So
Mm.
anyway, that's just kind of a big, broad answer to your
Yeah.
question, Debbie. But
Yeah.
I got into this because, for many reasons, I was disheartened
Mhm.
by the way things were going, and I was seeing 20 plus patients a day, and I only had a few minutes with each patient, and then maybe
Yeah.
I'll see them 6 months later, or maybe a whole year later. I might not see them again. And I think intuitively, we all know as practitioners that that's just, I'm going to have to say it. It's just bad medicine.
Mm.
Yes.
When I have to be honest, and
Yes.
Yeah.
I realized it was destroying me as a person,
Yeah.
as a healer. I always
Mm.
knew I was a healer of some sort, and so that's why I went into medicine. But I would crash every weekend
Yeah.
because it was just eating me up. That I just knew what I was doing was wrong
Yeah.
intuitively. And so, I'll
Mm.
throw it out there. Some people can't handle hearing this, but I had, as a physician, suicidal ideation.
Oh.
Now, what that
Wow.
means is you have thoughts of hurting yourself in some way,
Mhm.
some even taking your life.
Mhm.
Was there an action behind it? No, I had thoughts only. But believe it or not, we have a physician that commits suicide every day in America.
Yeah.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah. So
I've
a lot
never
of,
heard that before.
yeah. And so a lot of it's underreported. Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Mm.
Um, but also,
No.
when hospitals don't want people to know that, right?
Right.
And it's not good news. And
Yeah.
so for instance, one primary care physician, if they commit suicide, that's thousands potentially thousands of patients that don't have a doctor anymore, right?
Yeah.
Certainly 1,000, but it could be more than that. Okay. If a
Yeah.
specialist commits suicide, like an oncologist, a hematologist, right? These are rare individuals. We can't afford for them to take their life. We need
Right.
them. We need
Right.
all of these
Right.
practitioners on board.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so anyway, not to be all doom and gloom, but it's the truth. I knew that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was not delivering good healthcare the way I felt that it should be. I
Yeah.
had geriatric patients, and they're in their
Mm.
90s, and you got to push them out the door in
Yeah.
10, 15 minutes. To
Yeah.
me, that's wrong, right? They
Yeah.
have lots of problems going on. They might be living alone. They might have suicidal ideation, obviously depressed and, anxious people. They just need more time from their doctor.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
ultimately steered towards the Bredesen protocol, recode, precode. Recode is reversal of cognitive decline. Precode is prevention of cognitive decline. And
Yeah.
Dr. Dale Bredesen, he was a UCLA professor. He is the founder of the Buck Institute. He's currently the lead for the Evanthea clinical trial, which is a 9-month trial to show that this type of work, root cause approach, getting, finding all
Right.
those insults to the
Right.
brain can actually help reverse cognitive
Yeah.
decline. So
Yeah.
they just closed um, all the trial is closed, so they're doing, looking at all the data, and they're going to be getting that out to us probably soon. I don't know if it'll be this year. I'm not sure, but I wish I knew this program existed when my mother, who had
Mhm.
early onset Alzheimer's disease in her 60s, but I was finishing up med school, starting residency, and this wasn't
Yeah.
on my radar at the time. I wasn't taught
Right.
this by my mentors. I wish it was, because I think my mother would have absolutely lived a lot longer, and we could have prevented
Yeah.
um,
Wa-
Alzheimer's disease happening in her early
You
60s.
know, I'm
So,
I'm
Wow.
I'm
yeah.
so happy to hear about what you're doing. I feel like the problem is, and the problem was for me a limiting factor. Unfortunately, I was making a lot of money in medicine, but for me to go and get the treatment that I needed 20 years ago, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that was just the tests alone, just to get the
Mm.
blood test. DNA, we were doing DNA. She was handwriting. I'd spend 3 or 4 hours with her and, and going through all this. But I imagine today still it's prohibitive for most of the population, especially the elderly population, to get to you with. And I don't know, do you take Medicare? I mean, is it even feasible?
Yeah,
No.
the answer that I have is no, because Medicare doesn't take me.
Right.
Mm.
Right. Right.
Insurance doesn't take me, right? So,
Right.
Yeah.
they
And
don't
and
they,
that's why we've
The
been
system
so
is so broken.
so
yeah.
stuck for
Mm.
so long. Even if you
Yeah.
want to, like, how do you pay the bills? How do you pay the rent? If you're not getting access to the volume of people who really need to see you, right?
Which
There
is
is a
why it's so
shift.
lovely that you're doing that nonprofit or that volunteer work with Snowline Hospice, which is this local wonderful organization that's helping these people with these diseases of age. But yeah, again, it just
Education is
demonstrates.
power, right? Yeah, and so I've
Yes.
been doing a
Yes.
series of talks, getting out there. It was a lot of fun. The last one at Heritage. It's a 55 and older,
Hmm.
and they're just
Yeah.
a fun group of people. It was 100 that showed up, and I just had a good
Wow.
time being myself and getting them
Wow.
laughing, because this topic, I'm not going to lie, it can be kind of depressing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Dementia,
Yes.
just the idea
Oh
of
yeah.
any one of us that we're at. I mean, a lot of us are at risk, right? 1
Mm.
in 9 people over the age of 65 have Alzheimer's disease right now. So, it's
Wow.
a lot of people. And
Hmm.
then, basically 110 out of 100,000 are early, young onset. So that's anywhere between, age 30 and 64. So it's hitting our
Wow.
younger people, and
Yeah.
that population is growing
Yeah.
Hmm.
with Alzheimer's disease. But we need to be educated. We need to know what to do, how to
Yes.
prevent these things, and they can be simple fixes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like Dr. Matthew Berenstein, who was on your show before, he talked about the ketogenic diet, and
Yeah.
he's absolutely right. And
Mhm.
exercise, lifestyle, stress reduction, mindfulness. All that's part of the Bredesen 7 that
Yeah.
I'll talk about. I think
Hmm.
that's one of the questions you guys have for me. But
Yes.
I think that people need to know that there's simple
Yes.
fixes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
It's things
know,
that you can do
very,
right
very
now.
simple,
That's
very
what we all
doable,
need.
Well,
very
and
Yeah.
doable.
the other piece that I want to speak to, and I do want to get to that protocol, by the way,
Yes.
for sure. But I think we have been so lied to about so many things. So one of which is the amalgam piece, right? And where
Yeah.
the blood-brain barrier, and all of us who had amalgams, and what has happened in the brain, like people, when I have this conversation with people, they're like, "Oh, conspiracy." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." Like if they could just see the mercury that's put in a petri dish and the fumes that come off of it, like, and understand that that is what's happening to your brain every single day if
Yeah.
you don't get that stuff out of your teeth, right? But
And it's an
we
easy fix. You just see a biological dentist, right? Or
Yes.
functional biological dentist. We have
Yes.
one in our area,
Yes, we do. I
Dr.
just
Bianca Yee, right? I mean, and there's others, but that's someone that I use, and she's just an amazing, wonderful person, and she's Recode trained, so she knows
Yep.
Dr. Dale Bredesen's protocol. But yeah,
Hmm.
there's little things. All
Yep.
we can do simple blood work. If people
Yep.
can't afford all these tests, they
Yeah.
obviously they're a lot cheaper now than $100,000.
Hey, we just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about something very exciting that Debbie and I and our team have been working on for literally years. And that is our Core Tools app, which is now available at the Google Play Store and at the Apple Store. And you can sign up for it now, and you will get access to all the tools we've been talking about on the podcast.
And if you're an early adopter of Core Tools, you can get a VIP price for $49 for a lifetime. That's
Lifetime.
right. That's
Buy
right.
it once and we'll keep
Lifetime.
updating it too.
Yes, yes. So we're super excited about this. Go to Apple Store, go to Google Play, and purchase it now.
Core Tools, COUR, capital TOOLS.
Go get it.
We start with maybe some genetic testing because these young people need to know, are they an APOE4 genotype?
Yeah.
Like in my family, right? We have that was passed down. And, I'm trying to help siblings for sure through that. But ultimately, our genes don't necessarily define us, but what
Right.
we do, our lifestyle, which we call epigenetics, right? We
Epigenetics,
can
yes.
turn on and off our genes. So
Yes.
just having the knowledge of your genetics,
Yes.
your methylation markers. Do you have maybe other also in my family, we're not great nitric oxide producers. Nitric oxide is like the holy grail in the vessels. We
Yeah.
really need, and that helps prevent cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
Really, really important. So,
So go back a little bit and
sure.
and speak to that, because there's also a lot of misnomers, again, lied to quite a bit, and probably just because the system didn't really know what was the truth about genetics, versus epigenetics, because there's so many people running around, especially in the cancer world, talking about, well, my dad had the cancer and my mom had the cancer, and like, woe is me, like, I'm just done, like, why should I bother? I'm just gonna keep eating pizza and drinking beer every day,
Yeah.
and like, it's this doom and gloom thing, and it's completely false, completely false. So talk about the epigenetics. We've talked about it a little bit here before, but speak to that a little bit. I think that's super important.
I mean, we don't have to go down the rabbit hole of science
No,
here, but
no.
basically, it's just as I said before, epigenetics is we have these genes. Yes, we're born with them. Maybe they might be kind of depressing, like in my family, but we can absolutely keep those genes quiet.
Mhm.
Okay, but the way to turn them on right, is by, yes, maybe eating a standard American diet, not knowing what type of food plan is for your genetics, right? That's
Mhm.
a really important piece. And I want to touch on that a little bit more because in my family with that APOE4 genotype, yes, we should be on a keto flex diet, but we got to be careful. We can't eat too much saturated fats,
That. Yep.
right? We can't
Mhm.
have too much of that MCT oil, which is
Mm,
like the coconut oil. We have, because that passes right through the blood brain barrier pretty quickly. Yes, we can have, the olive oils and that kind of avocado oils, that kind of thing. But, we have to be in moderation. So what do we need to do to get into ketosis, which
yeah.
again, what Dr. Matthew Berenstein talked about, and anybody listening to this now, I highly recommend that you also listen to that podcast. But, we have to, you know, exercise more instead of eating
Mhm.
tons and tons of fats, because in this ketogenic style diet, we might the typical non-APOE4 genotype might be at like 70% healthy fats, whereas we might not be able to achieve that 70%. So we have to get into
Mhm.
ketosis through, good sleep, exercise, yeah, mindfulness, stress reduction, that kind of thing. So there's other ways that you can get into ketosis, but it's important that everyone knows their genes so that you don't eat the wrong things.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that the Biggest Loser, what was his name? Bob Harper or Harvey, or
I
he
didn't watch.
that show back in
Yeah,
the
I remember the
early
show, but I didn't
2000s.
watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, so he had a lipoprotein A abnormality, and so he was on the food plan that was just terrible for him, and had a
Mm.
lot of, I think, saturated fats, and he had an early heart attack. So
Hmm.
he had, I believe, he had triple vessel disease in his early 50s, a lot like
Hmm.
my dad had his first heart attack at
Yeah.
51.
Yeah.
But it's important that people don't think of it as doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Here is my genetics. I'm going to just do whatever I want because, like you said, Debbie, I'm doomed. It's not true. It's totally
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah.
You can
I
do something about it.
I wish that I could poll our audience right now and say how many people have had this genetic testing, how many people know what their genetic types are and what, because I know there'd not be a hand, maybe the two of you, your hands would go up. Most people don't know that. I certainly don't. And to hear that, like, that this is like you said, knowledge is power. When we
Mhm.
know, we can do something better. So that's, I really am grateful that you're sharing that. And
Doable. It's
yeah.
doable. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
a couple $100 tests, if you don't even want to do, a good deep dive into your genetics, just get the APOE4
Yeah.
genotype. I mean, that's like, I think maybe $70 or something like that. So, um,
Mm.
I think the 23andMe used to have that, or I don't know what's going on with the 23andMe, but at one time, I don't know. I'm not saying go out and get that kit.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
know if it's a legit. I don't know
Yeah.
how accurate that kit is, but
Yeah.
And find
we
someone
could do that.
like you, right? Because it is a lot for someone just to go down this path
Yeah,
alone.
you need an expert to hold your
Yeah,
hand and
you need
walk
a
you,
guide. And
especially
again, yeah,
if
you
you're
don't have
someone
to
like
go
me.
crazy.
Yeah.
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 And I get a
Yeah.
lot of those patients, they've already kind of done some of this testing,
Yes.
and they're like, "Okay, you know, yes, I have some education here." Maybe they were, a dietitian or a nutritionist or whatever, and they're like, "But I don't know how to interpret it. I have these tests.
Mm.
Yes.
Would you help me
Yeah,
interpret it?" And it's
absolutely.
fine. I'll take anyone if they have whatever test. I'll help them through it and interpret it. That's
Mm.
just my passion. That's what I love to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tests out there. I may not understand every single test out there, but I can certainly learn about it and then interpret it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do a lot of deep dive testing, microbiome analysis. As I said, the heavy
Mhm.
metal toxicity, mold toxicity, look for Lyme disease. So there's a lot of insults that could be happening to the brain. Anything that
Yeah.
causes inflammation in the
Yeah.
body is ultimately going to cause neuroinflammation in the brain,
Yeah.
right?
I love that
What
term you're using, insults to our cells,
Yeah.
insults to our brain. I'm
Yes.
wondering, like, am I being
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
insulted right now? And
And
that's what
and
Dr. Dale Bredesen, he uses that term, and
yeah.
then dementogens. So he uses that term as
Mm.
well, as basically that anything could really affect the brain. right? Even
Mhm.
if you're taking too many supplements,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
People think,
yeah.
oh, I'm just going to take this because I saw this
Mm.
podcast or read this book and it's good for
Yeah.
me. So I'm just going to go ahead and take it. Well, that it could become a toxicity, and
My God.
it's
I'm gonna have
really,
to call you and set up an appointment right after this.
She, I
Seriously.
can, she's starting to spin over there. I can see
I
the
like, oh
smoke coming out
shit.
of her.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
It
We
just to keep it simple
yeah.
is just, again, you just have to know your labs, what your inflammation markers are, what is your genetics,
Yeah.
get the data for you. Again,
Yeah.
you're a sample size of N of one. And then once you have the data that defines who you are, right? Then we got it. We know how to lower your inflammation. We know how
Yes.
to fix your microbiome.
Yeah.
We know how to detox you from those heavy metals or the
Yeah.
mold, right? We know how to treat the Lyme or the co-infections. I think Debbie, you had co-infections.
I had it all.
You had it all.
I had
Okay.
it all. Yeah.
Me too.
So I think what's fascinating too is, you talk about getting to root cause. And for someone like me, it was like, okay, well, once you start with one little thing, whatever it might have been. So the fact for me was, I had a well and I grew up on a farm. And so all the agricultural glyphosate was sitting in the well, and then I'm drinking that. And so what otherwise was a very healthy human being, it's probably started with that one thing, right? It started with that one thing, and then you add some amalgams, and then
Yeah.
you add some of this, and then all my food is sprayed, and then all the things. So it exacerbates. And so for a lot of people, I think people like me with the autoimmune, it can be daunting because there are
Mm.
so many components. And so to try to start to peel those things off, it's a lot, right? And so
You're right. You know why? Because your detox pathways
yes,
just got thrown under the bus. It
yeah,
just
I
they
call it,
couldn't keep up,
yes,
right?
it's the motherfucker. They call it the motherfucker gene, right? The
Yeah.
MT
Yeah.
FHR.
TWPP, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Yes. But now they're saying everyone has it. It's
yeah,
like a thing now, right? Well,
Everybody in
who
my family.
so
yeah,
who can process? I mean, we're being bombarded with with
Yeah.
with all the chemicals, the air, the food, the water, like it's coming
yeah,
from everywhere, right? So
yeah.
like,
We have a lot of toxins in our environment,
Mm.
and
right?
and if your detox pathways are backed up, I think of in some of my talks, I'll bring up you remember I Love Lucy episode with the when she was in the chocolate factory.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good
she
one to
couldn't
quote.
keep up, so she started eating
Yes.
them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right,
Yes.
right. So that's
Yes.
like our detox pathway. It just can't
Yeah.
keep up with that conveyor belt. It's just going. All these toxins are coming in, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, speaking of chocolate, people, they say dark chocolate is good for you, which it is, but the right dark chocolate. So there is
Mhm.
toxins, lead, arsenic, cadmium in our dark chocolate.
Yep.
And I could tell you some brands to stay away from, but I think people should look at the consumer labs, and
Mhm.
get on there about what are the safe dark chocolate. Dr. Dale Bredesen has done that research, so we know what types of chocolate
Yeah.
to recommend patient, but again in moderation.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little things, biohacking. Some people are still microwaving with plastic, right? I mean, it's crazy, but they don't know better, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just there's a lot of things we can clean up our environments, our
Yeah.
homes, our work, right? We can introduce I just read about it, desker size, because we know that sitting is the new
Yeah.
smoking,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And so yeah,
Yeah.
you can literally get up, and even if you do squats every 45 minutes, do 10 squats. I just read
I
this,
just
I think
saw
patient,
that somewhere.
yeah,
10
patient
squats
gave
every
that to me.
45.
Every 45 minutes, do 10 squats, right? You can really, help your body in so many ways, keep your
Mm.
glucose levels at at an optimal range, help with weight loss, help with strength, and, prevent osteoporosis. But so there's a lot of these little hacks that we
Yes.
can help people
Yeah.
through. And it's exciting and it's simple,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be depressing,
Yeah.
Or
right?
overwhelming.
I
I
told
love that.
Marcy, I'm taking her to the grocery store, and I'm trying to not overwhelm her, but we're gonna go do this, right? And it's just the simple label thing, which is not simple if you're trying to look at every single little thing in there, but there's some basic things that you can look at
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great
we have
labels, right?
functional RICO trained nutritionists, as well as we have a health coach slash functional nutritionist as well. I have two, and they're trained in how to help patients. They give recipes. We have a precision eating app so that you can literally, if you're,
Ooh, cool.
if you're trying to, reduce your histamine, type food. Some people have mast cell activation syndrome, so they want to eat a lower histamine diet. So you just click the button. I want the recipes that are low histamine, or maybe they're vegan. So you hit that. They're a vegan. They want to be
Mm.
on a ketogenic, plant vegan. So you click that button. So it creates these recipes for you, and then not only that, it can tell you, oh, these restaurants are near you that you can eat at.
Wow,
Oh,
So
that
it's
sounds really helpful.
love
yeah, so
that.
it's really cool. And that's
Yeah.
the idea, is to keep things simple, because if you keep things simple, people are likely to do it.
Yeah.
They're more motivated.
You
Yeah.
remember before we started talking, I said sometimes we have a conversation and it gets so rich, and then we realize we need to have you back. I do
Yes.
believe that is happening because you
Yes.
touched on so many things, and there's still so much we want to hear about. And I want to for people to know, like, if they want to work with you, is it just local? Can people, if we have people listening all over the world, do you do anything virtual, or how can
We
people?
do. I'm telemedicine as well as in person right now. And I'm working on getting other licenses in other states, Tennessee being one of them. But right now, all up and down California, I can work with anybody.
Okay, that's great.
That's not a
So
problem.
how would people find you if they're in California and they would like to reach out?
Yeah, my website is coastalfunctionalmed.com.
Mhm.
I started on the coast in the Mendocino area, and so I
Love it.
kept the name. We're definitely due for a name change.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
but yeah, they can find me on Instagram, Dr. Sandra Fleming. I'm on LinkedIn under Coastal Functional Medicine, Facebook under Coastal Functional Medicine. But yeah,
We'll share all
so
that in our
we have a
show
free
notes too.
15-minute consultation with me. We have a whole team that is ready and willing to work with, patients. And yeah, so some people just they want to chat with me and ask questions. They can do that for free.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah.
The other thing I do want to say before, where I know we're running out of time, but you kind of started this conversation in such a powerful way, sharing in a vulnerable way about your own suicidal ideation, and also I found it so striking the way you talked about realizing that you weren't serving your patients the way you wanted and how that affected you. I just want to thank you for sharing that, for being that open about that. I mean, doctors are people too. And,
We are.
yeah, so I love that. I really
We're
appreciate
meant to
that.
follow our path,
Yeah.
right? If
Yeah.
we're not following our path, if our energy is stuck, right? Which is why I've incorporated energy medicine. And I know we can talk about that in
Mm,
another podcast, but you're
yes,
absolutely right.
please.
Right. Is it that if we're not feeling that what we're creating every day, right? So if we're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
being creators in our world every day, we're not letting it out, we're not, being of service, right?
Yes.
It's going to hurt us. It's going to
Yes.
hurt us so much at
I
a
am not a good snapper, but
soulful
I'm trying to
level.
snap right now. I just love everything you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
Yeah.
it took me a while, but fortunately, I woke up, and it helped when I had a visitation from my nephew who died of an overdose, and at
mm,
24 years old, and he
Oh.
visited me in a dream, and it was very
Mhm.
powerful, and
wow.
it was enough to wake me up and to kind of save my life in a way. So
Yeah.
Mm,
I'm happy with what I'm doing now, and I'm hopeful for just a beautiful future of doing more and getting on more podcasts like this. So, yeah, thank
Yes.
you for what you guys are doing, and keep it up. I love that you're community minded, because we
mm.
need that. We
Yeah.
really do.
Wow. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank
Gosh,
Thank
you.
you
what?
so much. Okay, we're all
Yes.
calling you to make an appointment as soon as
Yes.
like, yes.
Oh my
All
gosh.
right. Thank you, Dr.
Wonderful.
Sandra. Love you. Can't wait for you to come
Uh,
back.
thanks, you
Yes.
guys.
Hey, warrior moms. As we started this podcast, we had determined that part of what we were going to do is to create a community. So we have decided to take it to another level, and we have started our own Facebook community in addition to the Warrior Parent podcast, and it's called
From Chaos to Calm, a sanctuary for moms. Here's what it looks like. It's on Facebook right now. Please go and join it. And just to let you know, we're going to create our Blue Sky accounts right now. We're getting prepared as we watch this weird stuff go on in America. So we may be shifting the whole group to Blue Sky. Just be aware that we got you. You're going to start here. If this turns out to be not a safe place anymore on Facebook, then we will shift over. But what we're creating is a safe space where moms can show up and get information, get support, talk to each other about the things you're going through with your kids, the things you went through with your kids, maybe get some advice from moms, but also other experts. We're going to invite all of our guests and experts to join the group. I hope you will too. This is a place where you can show up and be seen and be heard and be safe. Mom's got you.
Nobody trusts anyone more than moms. So let's do this.
And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters.
Today's affirmation is, I deserve rest. Say it aloud with me. I deserve rest. One more time. I deserve rest. Let that be your mantra for today.
Thanks for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast, which is a production of our nonprofit, Cour Experience, who also creates and distributes Cour tools. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. We want to thank Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DeMano.
And I'm Marcy Mitchell. Thanks for listening. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.